Hi everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why sometimes when you correct someone, it comes out sounding really harsh, and other times it is super soft? Well, this new study dives deep into how we use our voice to handle those tricky correction moments. So, in everyday conversations, we often focus on certain words to highlight what is new or important. There are different kinds of focus. You have information focus, where you are just adding something new to the chat, like saying, I ate pasta. Then there is contrastive focus, where you are picking one thing out of a few options, like saying, I ate pasta, not pizza. And then there is corrective focus, which is when you are outright saying that what someone else said was wrong and you are replacing it. The classic example is someone saying, Jacopo ate pizza, and you respond, no, Jacopo ate pasta. Traditionally, scientists thought that when you correct someone, you really amp up the sound of the word you are correcting. Think louder, longer, and a higher pitch. It is like your voice is shouting, hey, listen to this. This is the real deal. This idea comes from a lot of studies that had people read sentences out loud, which isn't quite how we talk naturally. But more recent studies using real conversations have shown mixed results. This is where it gets really interesting. Correcting someone can be a bit awkward, right? It can make the other person feel like they messed up, which can be a threat to their faces. Basically, their self-esteem or how they want to be seen. Because of this, people have developed ways to be polite when they correct others. This can mean softening the wording, like saying, I might be wrong, but I think it was pasta. Or even using their voice differently, making the correction sound softer and less in your face. The researchers here wondered if this softening or mitigation through voice might be happening with corrective focus. To figure this out, they designed a clever experiment. They got 35 people who speak Catalan, and they had them play a game with a digital character named Maria. Maria was learning Catalan, and the participants had to tell her which objects she should pick from a bag, specifying the color. The trick was how they set up the objects to get different types of focus. For information focus, imagine Maria needed a purple microphone, and only the purple microphone was in the bag. The participant would just say, Maria, take the purple microphone. Pretty straightforward, just giving new information. Then, for contrastive focus, they'd put the purple microphone in the bag along with, say, a blue pair of glasses. But the instruction would be to grab the purple microphone, so the participant would say something like, Maria, take the purple microphone here. They're contrasting the purple microphone with the blue glasses. The most important part was the corrective focus. In this part of the game, Maria would deliberately pick the wrong item, usually the blue one, even though the instructions were about the purple one. For example, if the instruction was, Maria, take the purple microphone, but Maria grabbed the blue glasses, the participant then had to correct her. They'd say something like, no, Maria, take the purple microphone. This setup created a natural situation for correction. And here is what they found, which is super cool. First, when participants had to correct Maria, they used more polite language. They'd add little phrases of understanding or soften the command. It was like they were saying, okay, trying to help you out here, not trying to be mean. Now for the voice part. Remember how we thought corrections always sound louder and more prominent? Well, in this study, it was the opposite. When people were correcting Maria, the focus word purple in our example actually sounded less prominent. The intensity or loudness was lower. The duration, how long they held the sound, was shorter, and the pitch range, the up and down movement of their voice, was narrower. It was like their voice was whispering the correction, not shouting it. This means that when we correct someone, especially in a setting where we want to be polite and avoid making them feel bad, our voice actually tones down the emphasis on the corrected word. Instead of shouting it out, we soften it. This is a real-world example of how our communication isn't just about sending information, but also about managing our relationships with others. The study beautifully shows that the way we use our voice to highlight words is influenced not just by what we're saying, but also by the social situation and whether we're trying to be polite. They looked at a bunch of different ways people spoke. They listened to the recordings and coded the language for politeness. They were looking for specific phrases that showed people were trying to be nice or understanding. Then, they used fancy computer tools to measure the sound of the words. They focused on the part of the word that was stressed, because that is usually where the focus or emphasis is. They measured how loud it was, how long it lasted, and the ups and downs of the pitch. They used smart statistics to compare the different types of focus. They wanted to see if there were real differences in how people spoke depending on whether they were just giving new info, contrasting things, or correcting something. Here is where they saw the difference in politeness. When people had to correct Maria, about 29% of their utterances had politeness markers. Compare that to information focus or contrastive focus, where it was only about 10 to 11% 7%. So yes, when correcting, people were definitely trying to soften their words with polite language. This confirms that correction is seen as a potentially delicate interaction. This graph shows it clearly. The blue bar for corrective focus is much taller, meaning politeness strategies were used much more often compared to the other two types of focus. Now, for the voice, when they looked at intensity or how loud the stressed word was, they found that in corrective focus, the word was significantly quieter than in contrastive or information focus. And it gets better, the stressed word in corrections was also shorter in duration. It wasn't drawn out as much as in the other types of focus. Their pitch range was also narrower during corrections. This means the voice didn't travel as far up and down. It was a flatter, less dynamic sound for the corrected word. This whole set of results, shown in these graphs, paints a clear picture. For corrective focus, the highlighted word was less intense, shorter, and had a narrower pitch range. This is the opposite of what you might expect if you were just trying to make the correction super prominent. This is a really big deal because it challenges the old idea that corrective focus always means making the word sound louder and more emphasized. The study suggests that is not necessarily true, especially in real interactive conversations. So, what does this all mean for us? It means that when we correct someone, we're often doing a careful dance between giving them the right information and maintaining a good relationship. We use polite words and we also use our voice to soften the blow. Instead of highlighting the correction with a big booming voice, we whisper it, making it less of a confrontation. This shows how sophisticated and adaptable our communication is. We're not just robots spewing facts, we're social beings managing complex interactions. The study did have some limitations though. They measured the sound of just the stressed syllable of the focused word. This is good for looking at the local emphasis, but it might miss how the whole sentence or phrase sounds. Also, the correction situation was kind of built into the game. Maria was supposed to make mistakes, so the corrections were expected. In real life, correcting someone might be more surprising and therefore more face-threatening, potentially leading to different vocal strategies. Future research could look at how gestures and voice work together during corrections, and what happens in even more spontaneous everyday conversations. But overall, this research gives us a fantastic glimpse into the subtle ways we use our voice and words to navigate disagreements. It shows that when we need to correct someone, we often dial down the acoustic emphasis, acting as subtle diplomats of conversation. It's a reminder that the way we say things is just as important as what we say. Especially when it comes to tricky topics like correcting someone. What do you think? Have you noticed yourself softening your voice when you correct someone? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into the science of speech and politeness, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more fascinating research explained in simple terms. We'll see you in the next one.